We've got a good one today for everybody. We've got Caden Cribs here. To my understanding, probably one of the largest window cleaning owners in the country for his age. So give us a little rundown. Caden, welcome to the show. You give us what you do, who you are, and then why your business is different than the competitors.
Yeah, so obviously I own a window cleaning company called Brightview Window Cleaning. I love it. I started it because I needed some extra cash and I started door knocking, saw all the videos on YouTube, thought, okay, I could give this a shot, and realized with a lot of dedication that I could actually make this into a big thing. And so, again, my name is Caden. I'm 22 years old now, recently turned 22. And so I have a gorgeous fiance and own this window cleaning business, and we're looking to scale it even more. So,
I love it. I love it. So for everybody to get context, give us, so you started this when you were 21?
yeah, I started this when I was 21.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
And so you've been in business now for what? How many months?
We just hit a year 2 days ago. So
Okay.
we've only been in business a year.
Okay, cool. And so for everybody to get brought up to speed, what was the revenue total sales you did last month? And then what are you on track for this month, which is May?
Yeah, so we had a slow month last month. We hit 38K, which is
Slow.
pretty good. This month we already have 32 on the schedule, but we're looking to hit 50. And the months prior, we normally hit 50 to about 55.
Okay, cool. And a lot of that is coming from contracted work. Like you have recurring cleans and all that jazz.
Yeah, so now that we're in a year of business, now a lot of it is service agreements and exactly like you said, contracted work where they're like, oh, I like my windows clean at a certain amount of time. And so now we're getting a lot of reoccurring clients.
Okay, cool. And so let's take 38K last month. I know you'd mentioned you had some employees sick, whatever, you guys
Yeah.
pushing stuff back. Hey, typical
It
small business,
happens.
yes, typical small business owner problems. But give us kind of a rundown of, like, for somebody that's listening that maybe has a window cleaning company that's smaller and they don't have employees and things like that for scale. Give us, like, what is the typical net on 38K when you're at the end of the month when everything's said and done? What are you guys taking home on that?
Yeah, so with employees or without?
Just like pure net profit at the end of the month.
Pure net. So we net anywhere from 65 to 75K. And that's because window cleaning really doesn't have a lot of overhead other than paying
Oh, you mean
the employee.
65, 75%.
65%. Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay, got it. Okay, so just for everybody watching, not 65K on 38K.
65%. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And then as you scale, I think a big thing that's like, because for anyone that's watching that doesn't realize this, Caden's in Home Service Accelerator. So he's one of the members of Home Service Accelerator. And so I've been able to watch the growth for basically
Yeah.
over the last, what, 6, 7 months, and
Yeah.
like watch you
Pretty
guys,
close, yeah.
yeah, watch you guys explode. So, I think the big thing to kind of notate on that is specifically for Windows, the guys I see consistently win are the guys that are selling service agreements. It's like the guys that are on the hamster wheel of just like hoping people call them again and then playing the paid ads hamster wheel. The guys that
Yeah.
like typically sprint out to like 10K a month, 15K a month, and then they get stagnant because they're either having to door knock for every job or everything else. So give everybody, like, we're going to start just really
Yeah.
tactical. Give everybody like the rundown of specifically selling a service agreement and why that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I think people that aren't selling service agreements, they kind of cap at about when they get to 2 years or 3 years, just because, like you said, they've hit pretty much everyone in their market and they do a great job getting the client. They don't do a great job keeping the client. And so we offer two different types of service agreements. One is biannual and one is quarterly. And so our biannual is just 10% off, which is, everybody loves that. You get your windows cleaned twice a year. And then quarterly has a biggest incentive, which increases revenue through our year actually by almost 2.5% on that certain client. Obviously, we're servicing them 4 times instead of the 2 times. So
Mhm.
they get 15% off. They get unlimited rain checkups, which is a diehard thing in Arizona,
Mhm.
even though we don't get a lot of rain. That also includes somewhat of a dust cleanup, if you will.
Got it. And so for people that aren't in Arizona, the reason he says the rain in Arizona is really dirty. So like when it rains, it basically is like
It rains.
raining mud.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll go months without rain, and then all of a sudden it's a whole month of rain. It's weird. Anyway, and so they get that. They get free deep track cleaning, which is huge too.
Mhm.
And then they also, if they post us on Facebook too, which we'll probably touch on a little bit, they'll also get $25 off extra for their next service too. So a lot of incentives to use that quarterly instead of the biannual.
Okay, cool. And let's go in the weeds for somebody listening that wants to implement it. So when you get them on these service agreements, let's say a new customer comes into the ecosystem from like a Facebook ad or anything else.
Yeah.
You sell them the one off,
Mhm.
just like, hey, here's the quote for your windows. And then at the end, are you selling the service agreement?
Yes, exactly. So we'll even have clients that say, "Hey, I want this recurring, either we'll have people every other month, every month, or they'll say, "Hey, quarterly works best." And we'll always tell them, "Look, we don't ever want to sell you that until you see the great job that we do," which sounds corny, but it increases a lot of trust. And then now they're even more excited to sign that service agreement either quarterly or annually or biannual or anything like that.
Got it. And then you just have it scheduled.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. So as soon as we get done with the service, and this is protocol that I made into the business, so I think we have a lot of client retention is the fact of when we get done with the job, we walk them around the house, show them the job well done, and then we get paid, and then we do the service agreement, and then we get the review.
so
So
you make them walk the house
yes,
around your
so
job.
it is an absolute mandatory thing, and I actually call every customer that we get done. I'm not in the field anymore, but I call the customer and I say, "Hey, did the guys walk you around the house?" And if they say yes, no, sometimes we said no, and I'll literally call the guys on their way to the next job and say, "You guys need to turn around and go to the client," and they love that. The clients eat that up. So
For sure. No, I think that's really good. I
yeah,
think it's like, I think that's really telling because like most people think when the job's done, it's over, but I've always been in the frame of mind with all my businesses that when the job is done, like that's the sweetest part that you can like
absolutely,
squeeze more
yeah.
juice out of the lemon,
That's
whether
when the
it's,
customer is ripe.
yeah,
Exactly.
whether
Yeah.
it's upselling them something else, getting a referral from the neighbors, doing the gift card campaign, something like that. So when you're talking about techs, by the way, how many service technicians do you have on
So I
right
have
now?
3 full-time guys and 1 part-time guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And so are you running crews of two?
Yep.
Okay.
2,
So
yep.
what are each one of these guys responsible for doing a day? Or these crews? So you have two crews running. Like
2 crews running.
how many cleans can you squeeze in a day or
So
like
we
revenue
can
goals?
do all the way up to 6 to 7 cleans a day. When we get to the bigger jobs that are a couple grand, that's when it's usually 2 or 3 a day. But they're really, really efficient, and you usually pair them with the guys that they're most comfortable with. And so now they have a dynamic, which is it's bittersweet because sometimes if someone's sick, that crew member slows down a lot because they rely on someone. So we're kind of looking to see if having crews of one they might be a little slower, but if they start the job and finish the job, they're more reliant on themselves instead of the other
Interesting.
tech, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I wonder if there's like more or less accountability with two-man crews or one-man crews because like they could always play the blame game a little bit.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, and we'll this is a big thing that I figured out kind of early when I started hiring people is stuff gets lost and stuff gets left behind a lot of the times. And so we've had to write names on all of their stuff. And so now they can't play the blame game
Oh yeah.
of like, hey, oh, this is my squirt bottle, something little. And it's like, no, this has Lewis's name on it or something
Oh
like
yeah, dude. We've gone to like tear
that.
downs in January for Christmas, and we'll see like on the roof, my guys have left like a roll of
Yeah.
liner. Like it was there for
Yeah,
3 months.
yeah, and you gotta ask the question, you're like, how some 2 days ago, one of the guys left one of our biggest step ladders at someone's house,
Mhm.
and it was in front of their door, like their front door, and so the customer sent me a picture of it, I'm like, "Guys, how did" how and stuff happens, like you said, something gets caught on the phone or we gotta rush to the next
Yeah.
job, something does happen, but, a lot of the guys and they take a lot of credit for it, which is good, they'll shake
Mhm.
their heads and be like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. That was
Yeah.
obviously, I didn't do a great job on the walk around." So,
Yeah. So how are you finding these guys? Like the guys to work for you and like what's the comp structure for these guys? If you don't mind
yeah,
sharing.
no, no, you're okay. So whoever says that they can't find good work, I think doesn't actually look for it or ask the right questions. And I think that is what makes a good company turn to a great company because all the guys that we have now, we go to church together, we live together, and now we're basically all family, which is really nice. And people call out a lot less, I think, and then they also do a better job for you too. And so how we go through hiring processes is we literally post on Facebook and LinkedIn. We used to do LinkedIn. LinkedIn, not anymore, but we post huge on Facebook. That's Tucson jobs, Tucson people looking for jobs, Tucson job seekers, stuff like that. And we'll make one post. We have a picture of someone cleaning a window. We list the benefits, and a lot of them are funny. I think you taught me that. where it's like some of the benefits are like free high fives or something like that.
Yeah, just like humanize
Yeah,
yourself a
humani
little
you
bit.
know, it's
Yeah.
like nobody wants to get bored reading them, and if you can make them laugh, that's even better. So,
Mhm.
this last guy, our last full-time guy, we went through 76 applicants, and we found this guy. And I'll say we meet first on Zoom just to not waste anybody's time,
Yeah.
so meet, and that takes way too much time, especially 76 people.
Mhm.
And so we meet on Zoom, and we ask if so we have 3 core values, and that's faith, family, and fitness. And we say, "Look, does that fit into your lifestyle? Yes or no?" And they say, "No." It's like, "Well, this isn't really the company for you," but and then we give them a couple companies that are still hiring just because we don't wanna be mean and say, "Hey, we don't want you." But, that we went through 48 people within 30 seconds of the first few questions, and the first question being, "Does our core values fit into your life?"
Got it. And so faith, obviously pretty inferred. Family, like company culture, all
Yep,
that jazz. But then
exactly.
fitness.
Yeah,
Walk
so
me through that.
yeah, this is this is I think what makes our company so special is I converted our, garage to a gym, and
Okay.
so there's no really excuse to not pay membership fees, and this is what we did before. We all went to Vasa Fitness. Do you guys have that here in
Yeah.
okay. So, it's not too expensive, but when you're paying for 3, 4 guys, it starts racking up. So I was like, "You know what? We're just gonna convert our garage to a gym." And so we did that, and so it's mandatory for them to work out with us 3 days out of the week. And so they choose the days. And so or they can't work said day, which is, some people are like, "Oh, that's so harsh, that's so harsh." But it has made the guys so much more fast, so much stronger, so much faster, and a lot more reliable too. And we've literally had people's wives and fiancés or girlfriends call us and be like, "Thank you so much. I've tried so hard to get them to work out, and now it's a mandatory thing for them." And so it's been fantastic, and we even, and we're not just barely lifting weights, we go pretty hard,
You're getting
and
after it.
yeah, we're getting after it. And so a funny story with that is we did legs, and one of our guys, our full-time guy, he just didn't work out a lot. And so the first leg day that he hit with us it was pretty brutal, I'm not gonna lie. And so he was having a hard time walking up the ladder. And so one of the customers saw that and was like, "Honey, are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just have to hit legs, with the crew." And she's like, "What do you mean have to?" And so I had the customer call me and she's like, "Do you make your employees work out?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, we do." It helps with our safety, with their safety, and it makes them a lot stronger. And I kid you not, brings her husband, whole entire family into the room on speaker and is like, "We love that. We just love that." She's like, "I'm gonna implement that into our business." She's like, "Thank you so much." And anyway, at the despise of Fernando was his name. Fernando he still works with us, but we laugh about it to this day. It's the best thing ever. So
Dude, it actually is true. Like we've never gone like fully down that route of like making
yeah,
it mandatory, but the majority of our labor on the Christmas light business came from this like Nick Saban coaching pool of weight room kids at GCU. So we got like one
yeah,
or two of them, and then we're
and
like, "Do
they
you
all
guys have
came.
friends?" And then like we would give them $100 per head to bring us in. And by the end of the day, we were at like 20
And these
something
are
kids.
good guys too.
Well, yeah, and like a lot of the time these guys were like they were real meathead
Yeah.
bros. Like I'm talking like if they had a shift at 8 a.m. starting, they would be working out at 5:30,
That's
getting
awesome.
their lift in and then coming.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we noticed was like there's a discipline that's associated with fitness.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of self-respect too.
Yeah.
It's I could fitness, I mean, we could go all into that, but I think, treating yourself with a lot of respect shows a lot of, character. You show up a lot more on time, we saw. And then you also it brings you a lot closer together too. So
When you're working out
yeah,
together.
and so one of the interview processing that I missed is we asked the questions obviously. When we narrow it down to like, let's say this one guy, his name is Dakota, one of the best employees that we have, great kid. Um, he when he started working for us, his last thing that he had to do to actually go through the interview process was work out with us. And it wasn't paid. It was like, "Hey, if you
Yeah.
really want this, then show up." And so he has to work out with me personally and no with nobody else. And we went on a 5-mile run, and this kid was, like, pushing me, pushing me, pushing me, and then finally, after a while, obviously, he started slowing down and stuff, and he's like, "One day, I'm gonna beat you?" And that like, in my head is, "Okay, I like this person. This
Yeah.
guy has a lot of drive," and he's never showed up late. He actually was the one that called out sick last
Yeah.
month. But that was a bigger emergency than just being a sissy. But
No, I got you, dude. That's wild. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, and I think we both value it. You're definitely more dialed in with the structure of it than I am, but like, I don't know about you. I'm not like my employees aren't required to have a six pack, but
right.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
and deal it.
strongly encouraged.
Right.
No,
Strongly encouraged.
no, not at all. I don't have even close to a six pack, so I could never require that. That's a rules for thee, not for me situation. Okay, cool. Let's talk about let's change gears a little bit because a lot of the stuff that I think like exploded you when I watched the
Yeah,
growth is the marketing and the change.
absolutely.
So you joined HSA probably what, 6 months ago?
I want to say I don't even know if it was 6 months ago. I think it was even shallower than that. I think it was December, right?
Okay, so
So
about five.
5, yeah,
Five, I think
5 or
early
6,
December, but
yeah.
5 months
So
ago.
close
Okay,
enough.
cool. What was your revenue at when you joined? Do you remember?
So that was not counting Christmas lights and
Yeah,
stuff.
just windows.
Yeah, so just windows, we were doing anywhere from 5 to 10K a month, and that was revenue. That wasn't even profit. So
Yeah.
that
And
was
you were
door knocking,
door knocking.
door knocking, and a lot
Door
of good,
knocking.
yeah, door knocking. Look, if you have an ego, door knocking and stuff, it's earned. Like door knocking is hard, and I'm not dissing that at all. I love door knocking because I felt a lot more accomplished when I got the job,
Mhm.
but it's not scalable. It
No.
is not scalable at all. And if anything, it brings your brand down a lot, I saw, because people wouldn't trust you as much, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, no
So
one's ever said that.
yeah.
So a lot of people are I'm pretty anti door knocking, not because I think it doesn't work,
Yeah.
but I think there's more scalable options for customer acquisition. Now,
Absolutely.
there's a guy in Home Service Accelerator, Ellie, who does $1 million a month from just door knockers. So I'm not saying that door knocking can't work.
Yeah.
It's just when I'm presented the choice of building out a sales team, a sales funnel, anything else for a home
Yeah.
service business, I'm going to crank ads. I'm going to crank stuff that builds brand, all that
Yeah.
jazz. So kind of walk everybody through because that's like ripping that band-aid off as a guy who was like, because objectively speaking, when you're a new business and you're 21 years old and you
Yeah.
door knock to 10K, that's still a lot of money
And it feels like a lot of money
because
too,
you had
you know?
no customer acquisition cost
Yeah.
outside of your time. You were probably doing the majority of the windows
Yeah,
yourself.
it was door knocking or cleaning. That was I would when I started, I would do anywhere from, and this sounds like a crazy number, but anywhere from 14-hour days to 15-hour days. Because obviously in Arizona, it's 5 a.m., you can start and you end at pretty much 8, and so
What were you door knocking at
yeah,
5 a.m.?
not door
Oh
knocking,
my
but we were
gosh.
doing
Like just
different
maintenance
calls and
stuff.
stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So your days start at 5 a.m. When would you actually get out and start knocking doors? Like,
So I started finding a sweet spot, but I would start at like 7:30, which pissed a lot of people off because
that's insane.
and you get a lot of people that would wake up and be like, "What are you doing, bro?" Like, "Why are you at my door?" Are you that desperate? I had a lot of people say that, and obviously when you wake someone up, there's no way you're closing that sale.
No, they
There's
hate you.
no way
They
you're
hate
closing
you.
that sale. So I started knocking closer to 8:30 or 9, but it gets so hot too in Arizona. That's what we're kind of battling,
Mhm. So
So
then you would knock till what, like 2 maybe, and then try to just do jobs?
yeah, so I would try to door knock. If I didn't have a job in the day, what I would do is I just door knock the entire day and try to get people scheduled for like the next day or the next 2 days,
Mhm.
which normally would work. But as soon as I'd finish that job, I'd door knock and door knock. And so it was just a repeating cycle of, you know, not utilizing my time like I should have. And to be honest, I wish I started hiring people a lot earlier. I think that's what if I could look back, and obviously we're only a year in business, so take it what it is. But
Mhm.
I wish we started hiring people probably in like the third or fourth month.
Yeah, hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah,
But yeah, now that you're here, you're like, "Oh, I
yeah.
could have done this so
I
much
could have done it so
earlier."
much earlier. Yeah,
You
but
forget like where your brain was at that
exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got off of the door knocking. What was was it Facebook ads you did first? And then you
Yeah.
optimized the Google bit, like you really leaned into the Google business after?
After and
Okay.
probably within like t- 2 or 3. I knew that reviews were really important, but I never knew that SEO was. I thought it was just hiring someone that ranked your business higher.
No.
It's not that at all.
2025 SEO is not that.
Not that
Like
at all.
the way I paid SEO agencies in 2021
Yeah,
is
it's
like a
completely
completely
different.
different now.
Yeah, I mean, they do crazy weird hacks, that you wouldn't
Yeah.
know, the like window cleaning in a million different times behind an image, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And now, exactly like you were said,
Well,
it's
it's
a
funny,
lot
like
different.
the most important SEO you can do now for a home service or contracting
Yeah.
business is the Google Maps
Yeah.
business listing SEO.
Yeah.
like, dude, especially like for trades that both you and I are in, like windows or lights, like there's so much like legacy competition around you
Yeah.
that has been doing the old school SEO. And so for anybody listening that like, because sometimes most people might know, but let's just make sure we do the difference. So when you Google something and it's like you see the sponsored links, those are ads.
Yep.
And then you see like the Google Maps listings,
Right.
those are like the organic maps SEO that we're talking about is the most important, where you get reviews on that page and everything else. And then under those is like the organic results, where like typically like Thumbtack and Angie and Zillow and like a company that's been around for 20 years will be. It's going to be really hard to crack that list in 2025, but getting higher ranked in maps
It's way easier.
yeah. So
Way
you
easier.
sprinted out to like, you like 350 something 5 stars.
No, we're at 375 now. Yeah, we're cranking it. And
Okay.
so that was yeah. So we started out, and when I started the window cleaning company, there was two big names that were out there, and there was Brighter Days, which I didn't for some reason that didn't come up when I looked up Bright View, like because I thought it would. It's a lot closer than I want it to be,
Mhm.
but it hasn't mattered. And
Mhm.
so if anybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I started something and there's a similar name," it doesn't matter at all, which is nice.
Okay.
And even we've gotten even customers from them that were like, "Hey, oh, I meant to call Brighter Days, but what do you guys do?" You know,
Yeah.
and
And
you're
then
like, "Oh,"
and they've probably
and then
gotten
use
some from
yours.
you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it kinda goes both ways, but this so they've been in business for one, Gabe's Window Cleaning has been in business for 26 years, so longer than I've been alive. And then the other cleaning company has been in business for 22 years. And so when I started, they're at, one's at 670 and then one's at 970 reviews. And
So
so when
they've
I
been leaning
start
into it.
yeah, when I started, I was like, this is gonna be hard to kinda come up on top. And so within, yeah, the last 2 months, we've ranked number 1 in Google with even, less reviews, obviously.
Mhm.
So SEO is definitely important.
Yeah, and one of the things we see too, and probably why you climbed up so fast, is like it's the frequency and volume of the reviews, because you're
Yeah,
essentially giving Google like this positive feedback loop of,
every single
oh
day.
my gosh, like
Yeah,
this business is active,
yeah,
like active, active,
exactly.
and then that amongst other things, you did the full like services and
Everything, yeah,
yeah.
everything you can imagine, but I think and I would put it probably even with the maps, like you were saying, is something that's so important for SEO is reviews. Is
Oh
because
yeah,
when people aren't cranking reviews, they're even if they are on maps, they rank so low, which is crazy.
oh yeah, like the way you're going to rank higher on maps is
Yeah.
by just reviews is probably the more important thing ever, but photo reviews
Photo
also,
reviews are
yeah.
the best, but and yeah, and this is the only thing that we're really pushy on in my business is, like, they have to get the review. Like, they have to and we make incentives if they get a review, which is pretty easy, they get an extra $10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but, you know
That sounds like a lot
yeah.
for a guy doing 7 a day, and he's
Yeah,
making what, 20 bucks an hour?
right, exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so they're making exactly.
if he's getting 7 reviews a day or 6 reviews a
Yeah,
day,
he's making a lot
he's
more.
making a lot more per hour.
Exactly. So that's how much we know that reviews are worth, you know?
Yeah.
And so that goes to tell, everybody that obviously reviews definitely work. But I mean, we've had people and older people, that are like, I don't believe in Google or anything. So I had a conversation with a lady yesterday and
Like they don't have Gmail
yeah, they
accounts.
don't have Gmail
Yeah.
accounts or anything,
Yeah.
you're like,
We've run
"Okay."
into that.
You know, if they don't have a Gmail account, then we're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay." We'll let it slide. But we've had people that are like, "Oh, I don't believe in social media." Like this lady went on a 30-minute tangent with me on the phone, like, "I don't believe in social media, too many people are," which, I get, there's a lot
You just
there's
move
a lot of
on.
scares. No, but we didn't. I didn't move on at all. I was like, "Look, I'll run you through it." She's like, "Well, I don't believe in that." I'm like, "Look, I don't either. I don't believe in any of that stuff," which, a lot of the times I don't. I was like, "But Mr. Lewis," and we always say this, like, "Hey, our guys, if they hit a certain amount of reviews within a month, they get a bonus too." And so that helps a lot too. If you're like, "Hey, Mr. Lewis that cleaned your house," if Lewis couldn't get it, is only 2 reviews away from said bonus. And that is a little bit of incentive too,
Oh,
especially if
yeah.
Lewis does a great job, which they always do. And they're like, "Oh, okay," and reaching back to people, like Lead Connect. I don't know if you've announced that yet, but
Snipey lead?
yeah,
Yeah.
Snipe
Yeah,
Lead.
yeah,
Okay.
it's live.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
live. Yeah, he's a
Uh,
Snipey lead user.
Great.
Yeah.
So just like it reaches back to people to get your leads, reaching out to people for reviews too is the same thing to me. And so some people, like you said, get busy. Some people have the review on their phone and then their kid screams or something. They set it down and they forget about it. And you're like, oh man, why
Yeah.
didn't they leave a review? It's like, oh, text them again. And we've gotten so many like that.
I
So
mean, I've done that as a consumer. Like,
yeah,
as someone who knows how valuable the reviews are, like, I'll tell a business, like, yeah, I'll leave you a 5 star. And then I
you
even forget.
forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the follow up's good. And so the way The way we always have framed it in HSA for everybody is like you want to get the tap cards and get the reviews in person, and then your automations and like Snipey Lead, everything else in the back end is like batting cleanup. It's like
Yeah,
you want to
exactly.
get it in person, but we obviously are realistic. We understand we're not going to get every single one in person
Right.
right then and there.
Yeah.
And so you have now two lines of defense to get the
To
reviews,
get it.
like bats cleanup.
Yep.
And it's like it's really funny because like if you look at a business who just does automations, they'll probably like just like sends an email after, sends a text after, asks for a review, they'll probably have like a 10 to 15% review rate for every closed out job.
Yeah.
But you guys have like,
I I would we haven't actually calculated that, but I mean, for how much we've grown, so I mean, within a year,
yeah,
obviously, we're more than 100 or more than a review a day, which is close to it. But I didn't do reviews for the first 4 months.
yeah,
And so within, what is that? What is 8 months? Within 8 months, we've gotten 370 something reviews.
yeah.
So
And so 5 working days a week, like
there's
not
a,
even being
yeah,
leaned into it for a year.
exactly.
Yeah,
There's a
that's a
lot that you need
lot
to
of
get.
volume.
It's so,
That's a lot of
yeah,
volume.
if you can lean into that. And the nice thing with Google too is it's a lot of people can leave you bad reviews. And this is where people kind of what is that? S- what's the word that I'm trying to say?
What do you, I don't
Like,
know.
go away from it,
Okay.
essentially. Shy away.
Yeah.
Shy away from it is they're afraid to ask, like, the wife and the husband for a review. And so if there's 5 people in the house and they see you do the job and they're like and you ask them, "Hey, how did I do?" They're like, "Oh, you did fantastic. Would you mind leaving a review?" And so people just ask one person in the house, but if they see your work, then absolutely ask them for a review. We've asked landscapers and stuff for reviews because they're like, "Dude, you did a fantastic job. Like, would you mind leaving a review?" They're like, "Yeah, absolutely." And, then all of a sudden this one house left you 5 reviews because sometimes that accounts for the people that, don't have Gmail accounts or that don't wanna leave a review no matter what.
Dude, that's really
So,
good free game. I think even we don't
yeah.
even always ask like
Yeah,
this
it's
for the spouse
so
to leave
important.
double.
It's
I
so important.
yeah, I think we talk about this a lot where it's like when you meet the family who's like the champion for the brand, like when you're done, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing."
Yeah.
Like those are the people where you're
Facebook
like, "Dude,
ads, yeah.
Facebook group post,
They're going
get your
crazy.
husband, get your dog,
Yeah.
everybody leave me a review." Yeah. And then, you can be like, we'll be realistic. Like some places, like some people you just don't get one from.
No,
But
they're
when you
like
do get them,
they'll simply tell you, "I don't wanna leave you a review."
yeah. And it's
And
like,
they're like,
okay,
"You did a great job, but I don't want it." You're like,
okay.
"Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever."
Move on. No, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
what do you think? And I know I didn't have you prepare the numbers, so it's okay. You can somewhat guess. But like with the Google Business page, what do you think? Like, how many jobs a week do you think you're getting just from Google Maps?
Just from Google Maps? I don't know, probably a week.
Yeah,
Like, it's how many calls we get, how many quotes we run. I would say anywhere from 8 to, like, 16
calls
calls. But our close rate's 92%. And so
once they're qualified.
once they're
Yeah.
everyone's qualified essentially.
Okay.
Window cleaning doesn't have, like, a huge, like, "Oh, you need to qualify for this," you know? Like, they're
Yeah.
not dropping.
But sometimes people call the GMB thinking you're a window company, like a window selling company or something
Yeah.
like that. Got it.
Oh, so that's actually funny that you bring that up. We were named Brightview Windows, and so we would get that all the time. We
Yeah.
got called for a Kia Soul window replacement one time, and I'm like, "All right, we need to change this."
Yeah,
So
dude. We get calls like thinking we're a drive-through Christmas light display.
oh,
Oh
really?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I would tell you though, as soon as we changed that, we've never gotten anybody that calls us for anything other than window cleaning. So, which is nice.
That's really nice.
Yeah, really nice. But I mean, you talk about it, each customer average tickets anywhere from um weeks, obviously weeks differ, but anywhere from 380 to 425. And so you're getting basically free jobs, 8 to
Mhm.
16 of them at pretty much $400 a ticket.
Yeah.
You're making a lot of money just from getting reviews, posting updates, doing your different products. So it's
Yeah.
free money essentially.
Landing a job is great. Landing a job that costs no money
Yeah.
to grab is
Yep.
even better. Speaking of
Exactly.
spending money for jobs,
Yeah.
Facebook ads.
Facebook ads. Let's
Okay.
run it.
That was to me
Our
when I
tipping
saw
point.
you like
Yeah.
explode, like your sales like exploded. It was on the back of Facebook ads. Like a
Absolutely.
lot of it.
I 100%, and I will advocate that every single day and anybody that asks me that. I think, like we said, starting your business, if you don't have a lot of money, like I didn't have any capital at all. When I started, door knocking is perfect because, you get to meet a lot of people, you get
Yeah.
sales experience, and you become a lot more confident in yourself, which is nice.
Mhm.
But as soon as you can start paying anywhere from 25 to $40 a day, run Facebook ads because when Steve helped us out with Facebook ads, we started, like I said, anywhere from 5 to 10K in revenue. We hit our first 50K month in that month that we started Facebook ads, and what did we have? I think it was like 64 leads in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it mind-boggling, and we spent not a lot of money. We had to spent $12 a lead. So, like, if
Yeah.
I can sell
So
$12
pretty much
on a
any day
$400
you were getting
lead.
3 to 4 leads a day at $40 a day in spend.
Yeah, we were getting no, when we started out, when you first started helping us, we got anywhere from like 7 to 12 leads a day. And so at this point, I'm freaking out. I'm like, that's when I knew I had to hire more people because I
Mhm.
was cleaning windows and I was like this, like
Yeah.
cleaning windows and talking on the phone. I said, all right, this is not sustainable. So now that actually got me out of the field. So thanks to your help and Facebook ads, I've been out of the field and now I get to basically work pretty much anywhere. Like right now, the guys are making money for the business, which is clutch,
Yeah, dude.
So
It's
it's
the best
amazing.
feeling in the world.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. We want to make sure we preface this too. You're running the Facebook ads yourself. You're not
Yes.
paying an agency.
No, no agencies. Absolutely
So
not.
you just like we taught you how to do it.
Yeah,
Now you just have that skill as the business. And that's the key
exactly.
differentiator because I think a lot of people think even still, and I've been talking about it for like 6 months, like telling blue in the face,
Yeah.
like, hey, you don't need to pay an agency to run Facebook
Right.
ads for you. It's a basic structure.
Yeah,
And like once you learn it, now you're testing your own creatives, you make your own scripts, you do that. How
exactly.
many new creatives? And so when we talk about creatives, it's like the actual video that is running as an ad. Like that's what
Yeah,
we mean by a creative. It's like a marketing term for like the
yeah.
tangible ad you're running. How many are you like shuffling in every month? Like 1 or 2 new ones, 3 or 4 new ones?
Yeah, so we do anywhere from 3 to 4 new ones a month.
Mhm.
And last month we only did 2, but they ripped.
Mhm.
And again, some of them are we do a lot of month specific offers just because of the urgency. I think we bring a lot more customers into that because it's like almost a scarcity of I need to get this before they end. Realistically, we hopefully a lot of our customers don't watch this, but we run pretty much the same discount every month. We just change the wording in
Yeah,
the
they
video.
everyone knows the game. There's
Yeah,
nothing yeah, it's
it's
just there
nothing crazy
there's
new,
nothing wrong with
but,
that.
we have to run those, but then we'll run the occasional funny one just to build brand. Like the other month, we have obviously wrapped vans, and I was laying sideways on them, laying down like this. I said, "Do you have dirty windows? If so, give Brightview Window Cleaning a call. I'll see you soon." And
That one crushed?
that one, it didn't crush for leads, but that got our name into so many different categories where we locked down a bunch of realtors that reached out to us from that, and then a lot of commercial cleanings too. So we just landed 27 Taco Bells from that lead that they were like, dude, I loved this. I love the fact that this was funny, this is outgoing. And then obviously you have to back that up with, your reviews, your Google, everything like
Yeah.
that. So
This is probably like if anyone's listening and they have a window cleaning company or anything, that's probably the most important thing we've talked about on this entire episode so far is the fact that the Facebook video ad itself not only is just a lead generator, so they submit their info to get a quote for leads, but it also builds your brand. And so, like, for example, if you run a Google ad, if you run on Thumbtack, if you run Angie's, if you run any other thing, you can't show them a video. You can't show your beautiful shining
yeah.
face and your beautifully new wrap trucks
You're
and
like,
all that. And so it's really like any of those other marketing avenues are just did we get the lead and did we close it?
yep,
Facebook does that. Facebook, Instagram does that. But then also you're shoving your brand and your
in their face.
logo
Yeah.
and your videos and yourself and your story in these people's faces, and then that's how you like become a household name in these areas.
Yep,
And
exactly.
that's what I think people are like incredibly sleeping on is once you crack Facebook on just I spent, $200 this week and I got 2,000 back or
Yeah.
whatever else, you get a better return than that. But,
Yeah, yeah.
for normal people that's like a pretty normal return. So you're cracking it from a customer acquisition standpoint. You're putting money into the machine and it's spitting out more for you. And then on top of that, Taco Bell owners, like franchise master
Yeah,
franchises are seeing your face and your brand and they're reaching out and be like,
right.
"Yeah, we saw your Facebook ad."
Yeah,
It's the same thing with us. Like we had a 30 something thousand dollar residential job this last season and it was coded in our system that it came through our website.
yeah,
And so my guy goes out there, he's like, "Oh, it's just like a SEO lead or whatever else."
yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys' videos are so funny on Facebook and Instagram." And he was like,
You're like,
"Oh,
"Oh,
like I thought you came from our system said you came from
yeah,
our website." And she's like, "Oh, no, no, I just Googled you." And so,
yeah."
but like the
It's
Facebook ad is
yeah.
what she found.
Yep, and
And it's
that's I don't mean to interrupt you,
yeah.
you're totally right. I think that's what and the numbers of obviously an ads manager, you see the numbers, it breaks it down like you just said. But yeah, what people don't see is how many people in their minds are like, "Oh, this was a funny ad," or, "Oh, this looks good," or, "Oh, this is very professional," they hold themselves, very
Yeah.
keen and very, punctual. So
Yeah.
exactly.
I think people underestimate how much reach Facebook ads that work have. And so, for example, if you run to just like one zip code in Tucson, there's
Yeah.
maybe, 40, 50,000 people in one zip code,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I'm spending $50 a day, I'm reaching two, three, maybe even 4,000
Yeah.
people a day.
Exactly.
And so over the course of a week, you've
It's a lot of
basically
people.
shown your brand to half, if not more than half of the entire zip code.
Yeah.
And so then when you scale the ads, it's like for Christmas season, we're spending like 150 a day,
Yeah.
sometimes even more,
Right.
$200 a day.
Yeah.
It's like,
Which
dude,
is
these
That's
people are
awesome.
seeing the brand. Like,
They know the brand,
yeah,
and if they really want it, they'll know you.
yeah,
We're all for the 3 points of contact, which is, either Facebook ads, they might hear about you, and then they see your van or something, and we'll get calls or stuff like that. And I think the Facebook ads, they all might be the 3 points of contact, and they might be different creatives, or they might just see you for the 3rd time on their phone.
mhm,
Everybody's on their phone, everybody's glued to their phone now, which is great for businesses. But,
mhm.
I mean, we've had people literally go out for the quote, like, "Man, your ads piss me off because I see them all day." But he's like, "But when I need a window cleaning, I knew exactly who to go to." And you're like, "I'm glad that I pissed you off." This is
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. It's like the same thing as like, why do we know the three biggest insurance companies' names?
Yeah,
Like for the
half the
last
time,
20
yeah.
years, it's like Geico, Progressive, State Farm.
Yeah, what's that one lawyer's Rafi?
Yeah.
Do you
Oh
see
yeah.
him
Oh,
ever?
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that guy, it drives us crazy, but if I know his name, I could
You're like, oh my gosh, I see this person everywhere as a consumer. But then the moment that you're in the mood for the service,
Yep,
that's the
boom,
first person you call.
exactly.
And I think that's like incredibly slept on because the same thing that Geico, Progressive, State Farm, and everyone's doing at the national and now probably international level
Yeah,
with like TV campaigns, billboard campaigns, print media, everything like that. Like that's obviously not something that you would do as a local business, but cracking Facebook ads is giving you
yeah,
that same reach just in a completely different and more sustainable way.
I agree, and I would go as far to say is everybody in Tucson knows who we are, and that is empowering in a lot of ways because our Facebook ads have obviously been up for a while now, but we've reached we reached close to, 500,000 people,
Oh yeah,
which is
easily.
great. If you get someone at 500,000 people in a stadium, like, I touch every single one of these, like,
Yeah, that's
every
like
single one of these
Indy
people knows
500
me.
and
Yeah,
the entire
right?
Indy 500 just talking.
You're
Yeah.
like, everybody knows our brand, which is great. And sometimes it takes, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times for them to see you to be like, "I do have dirty windows, maybe I'll give them a call." And then they're a lifetime customer. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, boom." But, I mean, we go back to reoccurring revenue is yeah, if you can get all those people, that's great, but if you only get them one time, then your business is gonna die? And so now you have the reoccurring people happening every single month that you're already building. So, like I said, we already have 32,000 on the books for this month.
Mhm.
That's no new people, which is crazy,
Yeah.
to think.
That's
And so
insane.
that's I think and I could be wrong, obviously, we've only been in business a year, but I think that's really the key to how to scale, really.
I mean, it's worked for you so far.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
far so great.
Yeah. And that's insane. And I think that that illustration you made about like, oh, and like a 500,000 people, if you tried to fit them in like the
Yeah.
Indy 500, I think that's Jake, do you know what the Indy 500's attendance is? Is it 400,000, something like that?
It's
It's
gotta
the
be
biggest
something like
spectator
that.
event.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, or you like, we're in Arizona, you go to the Cardinals stadium, like if your ads reached 500,000 people this year, you reached 10 Arizona
Yeah,
Cardinals
like, that's
stadiums worth of
crazy.
people. When you sit in that stadium, you're like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
and everybody that you're targeting, it's not like young kids, like, people that aren't customers. These are all, obviously, when you make your, I guess, your people that you wanna reach, they're all customers, essentially.
Mhm.
Your deserved customers are, like, 35 years old to 80 years old,
Yeah,
so
especially in Windows, like everybody.
yeah,
Oh, okay, 350,000 at the Indy
350,000,
500.
yeah, like, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, exactly. And so I think it's funny because we're talking so much about marketing because that's like obviously fun and exciting, but
Yeah.
you have to do good work.
Absolutely.
Uh,
You could do, the best marketing, but if you don't have a good name, if you don't do a good job, then it's always the, under promise, over deliver
yeah.
kind of thing, and it works.
So as you've been going for a year, I'm sure it hasn't been all sunshine and roses. Like
Yeah.
what's like give us like one of like the hardest or like funniest like terrible stories or like customer interactions that was terrible you had to deal with?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's not all sunshine and roses,
No,
everybody.
yeah,
It's
it's
not.
not.
Every business owner who gets going has a terrible story or two.
Yeah, and I'm very glad to say that we don't have a lot of them, which is it makes me happy. But I think that's something that you have to kind of swallow your pride and ego on is when you start hiring people, they're
Mm.
not going to do as good of his job as you are because it's not their business. It's not like their customer, it's just another cleaning that they have to do. So I would say when I would clean windows, I got maybe one callback was like, "Hey, you missed one streak," you know?
Hmm.
And then when I started hiring, I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting like 2 or 3 callbacks." And so that was on my fault, just not training hard enough. And so I think the biggest story is we were supposed to be on this one job for 2.5 hours. It was a big
Big house.
post-construction clean, but we
Hmm.
had 4 guys there.
Hmm.
And so with 4 guys, it should move really quick. We were there for 4 days. 4 days. And so the amount of obviously revenue and stuff that we had to push back and move and
You lost
lost,
money. You lost money on that job.
huge, huge loss, huge loss. I paid my guys more than obviously we
Yeah.
quoted. And so
What was it? Like the windows were caked with
yeah,
like
so the
glue?
post construction, the way they and you can point fingers, whatever, but they like silicone over all of the windows, thinking that it'd protect the windows from the sun, which
Mhm.
was I don't know why they did it, who knows? Anyway, the general contractor, they went out of business, all this crazy stuff happened. But the guys call me after 3 hours, I'm like, "Hey, do you guys have any updates?" They're like, "Bro, we've cleaned like 4 or 3 windows." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I thought they were kidding.
Yeah.
It's like, "What do you mean?" And so I actually drove out there and yeah, it was so the lady also was very, very OCD about everything.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah, so great, especially for windows,
Yeah.
and all the sun different angles and all this stuff. And so the reason why we're there for 4 days is because we think we were done. After 2 days, it was like, okay, like the guys were like, "We like it." We got called back another 2 days because of just like itty bitty little things. And so she was from Germany. And so now we have a inside joke that's like, is she a German type of lady? Is she gonna be like that OCD about like little things? Anyway, yeah. So we calculated we lost about 5 or 6 grand on that job.
Just on lost labor from new or
Lost
lost opportunity for new jobs, sunk
opportunity,
labor.
labor,
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
materials. Anyway, so now she's happy. She's like, "Hey, can you come back?" So it was one of our worst happenstance, but it got us a huge client. And to be honest, she even told us this. She's like, "Look, you guys do a good job. I'm gonna make sure I put you on a billboard, but if you do a bad job, I'm gonna put you on a billboard and post you everywhere." And we're like, this is when I was quoting the house. So I'm like,
Yeah.
great, this is fantastic. So anyway, she loved
That's
it.
really interesting though. Like that
Oh,
lesson
yeah.
right there, like if that gut feeling you got when you were quoting her and
Yeah.
then it ends up being like the worst job you've ever done. I think this is something that just happens with age. And
Yeah.
like and by age I mean like how long you've been in business. Like we've refunded people who've paid deposits in our business
Oh, yeah.
because they were such a nightmare even before we did the work.
Yeah.
Like I just knew what
It
was
was gonna
coming.
be
Like
that.
we refunded like I think it was like a $5,000-$6,000 job
Yeah.
this year,
That's crazy.
like just like we had money in hand. We're
Yeah.
like she was being such a nightmare on like the scheduling
Yeah.
process, and she's rude and combative. And
Yeah.
so I just went to the sales guy. I was like, hey man, like you're gonna like one of two things is gonna happen. The crew's gonna go out there, they're gonna have a terrible time. She's gonna be a nightmare, and then she's gonna charge back her card, or she's gonna be a nightmare for them some other way. She's not gonna pay the second half of her whatever it is, and you're gonna lose the commission that way, or you have
Yeah.
a chance to lose the commission that
Right.
way, or we can just refund
Give it.
her. You
Not go
see how
through
much
it.
of a nightmare she's being, just move on. And then we just decided as a team, like
Yeah.
obviously I'm not going to steal a salesperson's commission without
Yeah.
talking to him first, but we just decided as a team, like, hey,
It's
we're
not
just
worth
gonna
it.
roll with the
Yeah.
loss here and move on.
Absolutely.
And he was like, absolutely. She's like, I'm so sick of texting her anyway. And so we're like, all right.
Yeah, which I think is I like that point that you brought up is I think this is even more of a driving factor to scale and scale quickly and obviously be smart with it. But yeah, there's great. You can work wherever you want or whatever. But the power that you have to not have to take a customer is 10 times better of a feeling than anything else in the entire world.
Oh yeah.
Because, when you're new, you're like, I need this job. I really do need this job. So you deal with, horrible people. And now if people are horrible, we'll just say, hey, we're not
Yeah.
gonna do your work. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, what? Like, what do you mean you're not gonna do our work?" And then they chill out really quick a lot of the times, and sometimes they don't. So, yeah, I like that point that you brought up.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like even now that I have like an online business too with like HSA, like we've told
Yeah.
people no on HSA
Yeah.
because there's a community side to it too. And we're like, that person's gonna come in
And
and
just
they're gonna like
air it
ruin
out.
the whole vibe of the Discord, the group calls, all that. And like we've just told people no in that business
Yeah.
too. And they really don't like that.
It's a power, which is scary because obviously anybody can leave you a review on Google. So, pick your battles. I think if you can leave them in a nice manner, that's always good. But yeah, sometimes you just have to cut the ties and say, all right, good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah, I have a buddy who runs a pool agency, like a Google Ads pool agency, and they rejected an applicant
Yeah.
that like wanted to be a customer of theirs. He's just being a nightmare. And the guy like went and found their Trust Pilot, left him a 1 star, went and found their Google Business, left him a 1 star.
Wow.
But like just because they told
Didn't
him
take
no,
yeah.
like didn't
It's
even do the work,
unbelievable.
didn't do anything. So yeah, you got to be tactful with the way you
Yeah,
reject jobs
exactly.
too. So that's
Absolutely.
like that is part of it too.
Yeah.
Because one of the hard lessons I learned with Christmas is we like ghosted a lead because I was like, just don't like early in the year. I was just like, it was probably like year 3. I was like, just don't respond to them anymore.
Yeah.
And the person like left us a 1 star for not being responsive, but
That's
because they were like, we were on the quote process and they were like, you guys better not this and you better not that. And I've used 4 companies and all of them sucked. And
oh
we're
my
like,
gosh,
okay,
yeah.
red flag, red flag, red
Yeah.
flag. And so and then we got a 1 star. That one we got taken down
Good, good, good.
because
Yeah.
we had like 6 people spam Google and say like we didn't like read the review. We didn't actually do the work.
Right,
Like
exactly.
it's not a review.
Yeah.
Like they're not reviewing the
The
business.
service,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it is crazy. So, the last thing I want you to touch on because you're 22 years old.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for a year.
Yep.
What would you go back and tell 21-year-old Caden who's just starting out?
Ooh, good. I like that. I would say that the work that you're putting in right now is gonna pay off big, and don't be afraid to hire a lot earlier. And this is actually good for any window cleaner that's listening that's like, "Oh, I don't know if I should hire or anything." This was Brad in the HSA
Mhm.
that after a phone call, he started hiring, and now he's doing more revenue in his entire life than
He
he
just
ever had.
texted me yesterday. He did 50K
Yeah,
last month.
exactly. Like, he's doing 50K, but he was in the field 2, 3 months ago.
Mhm.
And so here's the perfect ingredient to scale that's worked for us. Obviously, I can speak to what we've done, but nothing else. Is if you can book yourself out a week, hire your first person and let them do the work. Obviously, you're training them and stuff, but when you start training them, especially for window cleaning, it doesn't take a long time to train them. And so if you train them really, really hard for 1 or 2 days, most of the time they're okay. So then the other other 3 days or 4 days that they're working, you work on getting other leads, and all of a sudden you're booked out the next week, and you say, "All right, perfect." If you can book out 2 or 3 weeks, hire your second guy, and then it kind of brings everything in, and now you're running 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, and that's worked so perfect for anybody that's asked. It's worked every single time.
That's really good
Yeah,
alpha for these guys because I think what happens with a lot of guys is they're so afraid to hire because they're like, oh, that's a new bill. I don't know if I'm going to be able to promise them work,
right.
like whatever else. Like if somebody hitches their wagon to me as an employee
Yeah,
and then, I'm giving them 10 hours a week, they're going to
exactly.
be like, the hell is
They're
wrong
gonna
with
get
this
out of there.
guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. And from a customer acquisition standpoint, what tends to happen when you start booking out weeks in advance is you'll actually end up closing less because like a lot of people want instant gratification. And
Right,
so it's like if you're 3-4 weeks booked out and like maybe some of your calls are calling because they're having a party in 2 weeks and they want their
right.
windows looking good for the party, they're going to go to a competitor because your availability is so far in
Exactly.
advance. It's like, so
Yeah.
we talk about speed to lead with marketing. It's like why we use Snipey leads, why we use everything else. It's like speed to lead, and then it's speed to appointment,
Yep.
like quote,
Yeah.
and then it's speed to actually
Get it
completing the
done.
job.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
it's like 3 factors.
Yep.
It's like you should be fast the whole way. Cause
Yeah.
like, I mean, look what Amazon's done to the marketplace. It's
Oh,
like all we
yeah.
want is everything now, now,
Fast,
now,
fast,
now,
fast, now.
now.
If it doesn't arrive
Yeah.
tomorrow or the same day, we're like, "Oh, that takes way too long."
Yeah, like even when I get the dogs groomed and
Yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, we're 3 weeks out." I'm like, "No, Petey's my husband's shedding right now."
Like,
Like,
I need this, yeah.
yeah, and so I'll go call someone else. And so it's
Exactly.
funny, like if you look at the biggest home service brands out there, like, A1 Garage Door or, some of these plumbing HVAC companies, Gettle and like some of these massive
Yeah,
companies, dude, they're gonna get a tech out to you in a day or two most of the
absolutely.
time.
Yeah,
If those
absolutely.
if those companies understand it, like at the smaller scale that we're at, we absolutely should understand
Oh,
it.
yeah, you should implement it, and that's the biggest thing I would also tell my younger self is Don't be afraid to copy the systems that other people are using. I felt almost like an imposter syndrome when I'd see something and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna try that," and it works, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't come up with that." And you say this all the time is you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. The success is already out there. The systems are already out there. You just have to implement what you are doing in your business and just tweak it a little bit, but it's already out there. So don't be afraid to, copy and paste a lot of the systems into your business.
Dude, the guys who win
Yeah.
are the guys who do the same thing consistently and perfect the same thing for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so it's like for you guys, like you keep doing Windows and you keep scaling it, you're going to be doing 60, 70K a month,
Yeah.
80K a month in no time. And you're going to have $1 million business with recurring,
With recurring.
with
Exactly.
guaranteed recurring revenue.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to exit that business for a large sum of money.
Exactly. Or
Like,
keep it, and just keep growing different other ones. It's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but when you have the monthly recurring, it's like exiting starts to become really sexy because you'll get a multiple. Like
Yeah.
you'll get, if you're doing, if your earnings at the end of the year are, 800,000 to a million earning, like net at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and 700 of that 800,000 in
Yeah.
EBITDA is guaranteed on the books scheduled, someone will come buy you for 3, 4, 5 times what your
Yeah.
earnings are. And then
Exactly.
it becomes like, yeah, I'm making a lot of money. I'm making a lot of money now, but I could sell this thing for two and a half,
Way
three
more.
million
Yeah.
dollars. Yeah, it's like the pest control guys. Like there's
Oh my gosh.
pest control business in
Yeah.
Arizona that sold for 100 million plus.
Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy. What did A1 Garage sell
Oh,
for?
I think they still continue to grow, but I think 200 something million
Yeah,
when he
like,
sold.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's recurring, right?
I don't. I think a lot of it's like I think they probably have a service agreement component, but
Okay.
they just also dominate
Yeah.
everywhere they go. And
It's
it's actually
crazy.
really funny because I want to end on this. I think it's really interesting that you're at 22 years old and you kind of frame things. And I don't know if maybe I'm responsible for this a little bit, being in the time that you guys have, in the time that you and I have spent together. But I'm encouraged that like when I'm asking you questions about your business, like you could very easily be like bragging and like I have the new codes and like I did this, I did that. And I think it's really important the frame that you say like, hey, this is what's worked for me
Yeah.
up until this point.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I have with Home Service
Yeah,
Accelerator. Like I
absolutely.
tell these guys like we talked about
Steve
it.
is very humble,
Well,
just say
it's not even it's not even a humble thing. It's like it's like a self-awareness thing where it's
Yeah.
like, for example, we just talked about A1 garage door. Like that dude can walk into any room and be like, do this. This is why. I don't want to hear any other because it's like
Yeah.
I've done it at the biggest
Biggest
scale
level you can.
possible.
Yeah.
Whereas like me is like the way that I frame this is what's working for me up until this point.
Yeah.
If you have a question about how to get to 2 million, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Like both my businesses combined, sure. But like the home service business, no,
Right,
I'm not the
exactly.
guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I think that framing is super important because you still have a learner's mindset and you don't think you have all the answers. And
Right.
I think I learned that the hard way when we almost went bankrupt in year 3 is I got cocky.
Yeah.
Like really cocky. Because I was, 25, I was
Yeah.
making more money than my friends and some
Yeah.
of my friends' parents, and I thought I was sick. And then snap of a fingers, ball doesn't
Don't.
bounce a few ways, and like I'm near bankruptcy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's cool, especially like being in like now that I'm on like the info side, like the
Yeah.
HSA side, it's super important to frame it that way because I see a lot of people selling courses or some sort of coaching that like should not be framing it that way.
Right.
And so that's why like I never use the two C words, like
Yeah.
course and coaching.
Yep.
Like I never use those two C words because like I don't like I'm qualified to say this is what's worked for me up to 400K a month.
Yeah.
And like when you're talking about it's like this is what's worked for me up to 40,
Exactly.
50K a month.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy to get you past there, but like
Yeah.
if you want to join, whether they want to talk to you or whether they want to join HSA or anything else, it's like if you want to see the exact blueprint that got us here
Yeah.
and learn from people around you that are doing the same thing,
And it works. Yeah.
then do it.
Exactly.
But I think that framing is really cool. Like we'll keep the coaching and the like do
Yeah.
as I say at all costs to the guys who've had 9-figure exits. I don't think that
Yeah.
I don't think you and I are there yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
We will be. But
Document, don't tell.
that's a big thing too that
Yeah.
I tell my younger I'm glad that you brought that up is document everything that you've done because even the very first steps, helping people grow like even little window cleaning companies, you're like, that was a year ago, like I kind of forget some of that, and relearning that is nice, but
Mhm.
I think documenting, like you said, everything is great. So, but I appreciate you saying that. I think having an open mind is what I think has gotten me so far too, because I'm not afraid to ask questions, and sometimes you seem dumb asking questions to certain people, but the people that will look at you and say and answer your questions truthfully and, saying like, "Oh, this guy's looking for knowledge," are the people that definitely made it a lot further than the people that are looking at you after you ask a question in disregard or just like, "Why did he ask that?" It's like I'm learning and I'll always learn, and so I love learning. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like every 8, 9 figure home service entrepreneur that I've had like the privilege of talking to, like they love the young guys that just ask questions.
Yeah.
They despise the young guys who like
Think they
will,
know it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
think they know it all. It's like a really interesting
Yeah.
dynamic. And it's funny, like last week, like there's a few guys that were starting like brand new businesses, and I was in a room with like 5 or 6 of them, and I was, teaching them like this is what I did to this point. And in that room, I was very qualified to
Yeah.
like basically say do this.
Yeah.
These guys were very very new. And like 3 or 4 of the guys were just like super dialed in, like hanging on to every word, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then like myself and there was another business owner there were like saying things, and this one kid was like, well, I don't really think that's the way, and he's doing like 5K a month. And I'm like,
It's like, what do you know? And I think you posted that on your Instagram story one day. It's like some guy that's been in business for 30 years and he's still doing the same numbers. You're like, obviously you're not doing something right, dude.
yeah,
It's like the closed minded where I think he literally told you, he's like, you don't know what you're talking about yet. It's like, there's a reason why you're not growing.
that's just purely a self-awareness thing. Like that's just like a purely self-awareness thing. Like if you've been doing it for 30 years
I
and
mean,
you're
that's
like
crazy.
still in the truck and you don't want to be in the truck,
Yeah.
some guys want to be in the truck.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is like that's part of the self-awareness thing. That's been really funny with HSA because we talked to,
Yeah.
I mean,
see
there's
so many
200,
people.
well, there's 280, I think it's 80 now, 280, Jake, something like that have been in HSA.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And like,
And that's
that,
congratulations to you too. That's
oh,
a
thank
huge
you.
thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you don't get there if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, so I appreciate you saying that. But it's funny, of the 280, we've probably talked to 3,000-4,000.
Right. That's crazy. That's a lot of people.
Like at least in the DMs, they've booked meetings with us, whatever else
Yeah.
over the last couple of years. I mean, we
Isn't
have,
that like the amount, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, the amount of arrogance that people have too, I feel like when they start or when they have a company, I think shields them from a lot of, like you said, growth or opportunities like HSA. It's like this could be the blueprint to your $1 million company.
yeah, it's really different. It's like if we're on the sales process with them, I'll never be like this person's arrogant because they didn't buy.
Right.
Maybe it just wasn't the
Yeah.
time, whatever else. It's the like when I'm at a conference
Yeah.
speaking, like at a Christmas light conference, where like
Yeah.
I'm very qualified to
Right.
speak in that
Done
room.
it.
It's
Exactly.
Christmas lights. There's very few residential. Like I can get on a stage there and say, "Do this. This is why."
Yeah.
And there's maybe 50 to 100 people in the country that
Yeah.
would be like, "He can't even teach that."
Yeah.
So it's like, we're in the top 99%
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Christmas
Yeah,
light
yeah.
companies, or top 1% of Christmas light companies. In those settings, it's different. Like if
Yeah.
you're a know-it-all in those settings, I'm like, you're never gonna make
There
it.
is.
But on the sales process, if someone just doesn't want to buy, we can't be
Yeah.
like, you're an idiot for not buying.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, more geared towards like someone like
Yeah.
that guy that reached out to you in 30 years in business. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is, but like you said, being self-aware, I think,
Yeah.
is important. But
Yeah, my dad had an employee in his company who was like, he'd been doing the same business for like 30 years. He was working for my dad, and he had like never had a 6-figure year. And my dad was like, "Hey man, like this is what we want to do. Like this is what we're gonna do."
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's not the way I do it." And my dad is like the most humble person in the world. My dad was like, "The way you do it? Like, how do you lack the self-awareness? The way you do it
Yeah.
is like
It's like,
you've been doing this for 30 years." And the most important part was the guy was expressing with his words that he wanted to be this like mid 6-figure earner, make 400
Yeah.
500K a year. And then when he was like getting coaching from a dude who was making millions
Yeah.
in the business he was, it was like my dad he did really well in the mortgage world. The guy was like, "That's not the way I do it." It's like,
it's like the way you do it's not working.
yeah. So I don't need, it goes beyond just home services, just everything.
Yeah.
But
But like even those people, like the people that make the most are like the $1 million companies. A lot of them are so willing to give you information, which is so nice. A lot of the time, obviously, I think the people that are not at the $1 million a year companies, they're the ones usually that are like, oh, I don't want to talk to you,
dude,
like,
and it's
hand in
also,
the face.
yeah. And it's also really funny. Like a lot of these guys, like that we were talking about earlier, and a lot of
Yeah.
these really successful business guys, they still have like mentors
Yeah.
and like they're in programs of their own for like their level and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
you ever see like the midwit meme where it's like the bell curve graph, and it's like the idiot, and then it's like the angry, like it's like the angry liberal meme, and then
Yeah.
it's like the Jedi.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like I find that like there's like the idiots are on like this side of the bell curve and they like buy coaching, they buy whatever, like whatever they want to
Yeah.
listen to, whatever. And it's like the people who think they know a lot and they're like angry and hate their life. They don't do it. Oh, I don't want to pay for this. I don't want to pay for that. No one's going to tell me how to run my business. And then it's like the most successful people in the
They're
world.
like the calmest people.
Yeah, exactly. Are like also doing the same thing the
Yeah.
idiot's doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like you said, people in the HSA, a lot of them, they're doing huge months, and they're
Yeah.
still learning. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, it's cool because we build together in that. I think
Yeah.
that's like the key differentiator.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm in there posting like when we close jobs still and like, everybody else is
Yeah.
growing. But yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
So, Caden,
Let's do it.
Brightview Windows. Appreciate you coming out, man.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.